So, let me get this out of the way to address a lot of things people say and to address the new killer in general. I'll go back a bit to when Freddy was first released. Freddy was good on his release. He had a lot of pressure and was able to down people. Yes, he was new and not a lot of people knew how to counter him, but he was also a threat. They then nerfed him, which in my opinion was not needed, all because low ranks or survivors who didn't have the luxury to play a lot were not able to play against him efficiently. This is okay. I never said it wasn't. If they want to balance around the lower ranks or the people who don't play as much, then fine. But we fast forward up to now with the last killer who was released, the Spirit, who was not bad in the PTB, but she wasn't really good. They did some tweaks and they made her top tier. Top tier shouldn't be where every single killer is. I also understand that the devs want to make killers that are also fun to play and play against. Overpowered and fun are two different things. I'm not going to lie, Legion is very fun to play, but very underpowered. I also think that he's fun because he's new and a fresh design. Freddy was also fun, but he also turned into a nuisance and annoying killer at the same time as being unfun to play and play against when he got nerfed. So with the introduction over, I'd like to give some thoughts and discussion about what I think would make this killer fun, but at the same time, at least viable. Keep in mind, this is a discussion, so if you disagree with something, leave it in the comments so everyone can discuss it, and I'll also chime in and answer as many comments as I can. Also, remember these points are individual and not together, so I don't want everything to happen, but to make him viable, some of these tweaks need to be implemented. So we got number 1, his power. His frenzy is a cool power and very fun to play with, but the potential to down people is lackluster and unsatisfying. You either down a player because you use your ability over and over to hit them 4 times, have an add-on to where you can hit them 3 times, or if they completely don't know how to mend, which is going to go away once people understand how to play against them. My suggestion would be to have healthy survivors be hit by deep wounds, and injured survivors without deep wounds be down when hit with the ability. This would give the incentive to either heal yourself or get healed in order to not be in danger while you're injured, giving more time to go around hitting other survivors. Some may say this makes self-care a more crutch type of perk, which I also agree with. But we can fix that by either having self-care mend slower or having a natural mangled effect and having no mangled effect when healed by other people, since mangled effects do not stack. This would also give a reason to find other survivors and also make his power naturally better, because if he finds multiple people, that's where his power is best. If something like this doesn't happen, I would suggest at least making the mending time longer or needing others to mend you, coupled with his base power lasting longer, so he has a chance to at least move a considerable distance to hit another survivor. Mending also needs to emit a sound, because right now you can mend beside a killer with either Iron Will or even No Mither and they can't hear you. Then we got number 2. We got his base movement speed. With the way he is now, if you want to fully down a survivor, you need to chase at 110% movement speed, which is Huntress and Hag speed. Disregarding the first point, with this point, if we make his base movement speed like any other killer, this would solve looping that happens when he's trying to down survivors. Number 3, we got his double fatigue. Right now he has the problem that plagued Nurse as a bug for a while, where he wipes his weapon and then fatigues right after, causing a lot of time wasted. This is more than likely a bug and isn't intended, but in the off chance that it is intended, it needs to go. The fatigue is fine, especially with the slowdown during the fatigue. You don't need to wipe the weapon and have the fatigue at the same time. Number 4, we got the mending action. Mending isn't considered a healing action, even though they use the word mend. I agree, things like Sloppy Butcher, Thanatophobia, and Colorphobia shouldn't affect it, but Nurse's calling should affect it. The Survivor perk Distortion was added into combat things like Barbecue and Nurses, so I don't understand why Nurses doesn't read the auras of people mending. I get why they did it, but Doctor's Snap Out is affected by Nurses, while other perks like Thanatophobia, Sloppy, and Colorphobia aren't affecting the Snap Out, so it makes no sense to me to have it not be affected also. Number 5 is a very small thing, and it basically gives counterplay to his Frenzy mode, but when the Legion leaps over pallets, he gives a considerable distance for survivors to sneak in and hop back over. This isn't really something I'm complaining about because it gives a decent counter to it while making the killer think about if they're going to or if they're not going to, which is the real mind game of it. Number 6, Mending has no skill checks. This isn't a big deal, but it's also something that can make a huge difference. You mess up a skill check on a Snap Out from the Doctor, he knows where you are, and also the Snap Out meter goes back to 0. With Mending, you have no skill checks, and if you interrupt or are interrupted while you're mending, the meter stays where you left it. Number 7, we got Deep Wounding, the same survivor. I talked about mending taking longer, and this can be a fix for it. If I double stack my deep wound on a survivor, I feel like the mending time should be longer because I double stacked it. The more I stack deep wounds on a survivor, the longer the mends should be. So if I decide to waste 2 cooldowns to stack 3 mends on a target, the mending time should reflect that. Another idea I also had was to allow the mend or the deep wounds effect regress while you're in a chase, and to also have it regress while you're mending so it doesn't stop the mending process. This would also help things like the fact that they changed the borrow time into the deep wounds status effect. So you can't go and get off the hook and then never get back down because the killer is chasing you around one object for the entire game. So this allows for the killer to be able to chase his target if he needs to chase the target for a little bit longer, and also leave him and have the deep wounds status effect still tick down. So what I suggest is having deep wounds tick down at 50% slower rate while inside of a chase, and then while outside of a chase it would tick down normally, and then while mending maybe have it tick down at a 25% slower rate or something like that. Because right now hitting someone with your deep wounds and leaving isn't really a good strategy unless all of them are grouped up together and you can hit multiple people at the same time, which once people learn how to play against him, not a lot of people are going to group up and wait to be smacked. Lastly, this isn't even a full point. Every killer has some kind of intimidation factor to it, be it traps, blinks, insta-downs, invisibility to sneak around, slows, or even Freddy causing you to intentionally miss a skill check to wake up. Legion has none of that. His power is an inconvenience and not a threat. You get wounded, you mend, and go back to your regular self. There's no drawbacks to you getting hit because in return to getting hit, he is wasting his own time. He then either leaves you, he tries the M1 with 110 base movement speed, or hits you another 3 times with his ability in order to down you. And all it does is waste the killer's time, not the survivor's. Enough negatives, we're gonna go into some positives. Let's talk about things the Legion does better than other killers. He can catch up to and or injure multiple survivors in a short time, which is his best asset to him. The Mori is amazing. The way the survivors fight back against a killer that isn't necessarily a big brooding Hulk like say Clown or Trapper or Wraith is good, and I like the animation to it. His terror radius is small, and he is also small, making mind games a lot easier than most killers who are either taller or have a bigger terror radius. The perks give other killers, and even him, a nice boost. Things like Iron Maiden on Doc is nasty, and also gives Huntress a nice boost. Discordance on any mobile killer is amazing, and Mad Grit on basement builds or any survivor friends is a must. Don't get me wrong, I would never want all of this to be implemented. This video is more of a discussion of things that can be fixed that would greatly help him to be viable. At this current state, he's just another killer with a power that's a nuisance. I'd also like to discuss perks that should work with him. We'll start with the obvious nurses calling. Just like Doc Snap Out, nurses should work with mending. None of the other ones should though. Bamboozle should work with pallets. Legion has an add-on that breaks pallets when vaulting, but I should also be able to bamboozle pallets I vault, considering it doesn't specify only windows in the perk. I agree that all the insta-downs should not work with his power, but if my point from number 1 doesn't happen, I feel like he should be able to insta-down injured survivors that do not have deep wounds on them. But that's basically what I think should be changed with this new killer. And if you have any thoughts, you agree, you disagree on points, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to respond. And I hope you guys have an awesome day. Thank you very much.
Just all about this money, I don't think about no thought. Girl, you don't know about me, so get off my fucking D. Born and raised in the dot. This is real as you gon' see. Girl, you don't know about me, so get off my fucking D.